Hi there, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, whenever it is that you're watching this. Today we're going to be creating a popsicle icon. However, this popsicle icon is going to utilize some interesting texture effects that you can use inside of Illustrator. So I'll give you guys a couple seconds to open up a blank document, or you can go to your digital sketchbook icons file that we've been working on. You can kind of see on my computer right here, and we can get started. All right. At any point in time during this tutorial or during this video, if the directions get a little bit too fast, you can go ahead and pause it. I'm going to try to speak as quickly as possible so that you're not watching this video for like 25 minutes. It's really not that hard of a technique. But basically what we're going to do is follow along the same steps that we've been doing here in class by using very simple geometric shapes to build an icon. So for example, here with this popsicle, I'm going to start off with a rectangle. It doesn't matter what color, you can always change the colors later on, but I'll use red for now. And then to give the curve at the top, I'm just going to hold down the Alt key while I have the oval button selected, and that'll anchor it right to the midpoint of my rectangle. Now holding down Shift, I can use the selection tool to highlight both of them, and then clicking the shape builder tool, once I've got them both selected, I can just drag down right between them and can make this into one actual shape. Pretty simple, right? A little popsicle shape. Okay? Now, to make the stick, it's basically the same thing, only we're going to be working upside down, so I'm going to create another kind of stick shape. And it'd probably be easier to work in a specific stick color. So there I've got my rectangle on the screen. And I'm going to just round it out at the bottom by placing my cursor at the middle, clicking on the ellipse tool, and then holding down the Alt button as I make this round corner. So there I've got my round circle. It's on the edge or the borders of the rectangle. And using my selection tool, I can highlight both of them, then click on my shape builder and join them together. So I have a popsicle shape, and then I have a stick shape. Pretty simple. Now obviously to organize this, you're going to put your popsicle stick, that is, behind the actual popsicle. So I can do that by holding Command and bracket key, and that sends it to the back, or you could just simply went up to Object, Arrange, Send to Back. Okay, so now I've got, as you can see on the screen, I've got my popsicle stick behind my popsicle shape, I guess, if you will. Now to get this texturized effect, it's actually super easy. Take a look at this, right? So I'm going to click the shape that I want to add the texture to, and I'm going to make a copy of it by holding down Command and the letter C. That copies it, but I want to make and paste that copy directly on top of it. In the past, what we've had to do is go up to Edit, Paste in Place, which you can still do if you'd like, or you can simply hit down or hold the Command F key, which will literally paste it right in its same spot. And if you don't believe me, I can just click and drag that over to the side, and there you can see I've got two of those copies right there. So like I said, in Illustrator there's lots of different ways to do the same thing. You could have even held down the Alt key and made a duplicate and then just made sure that it snapped on top of each other. But this is another quick and easy way to copy and then paste in place. Now I've got two of these popsicle shapes right on top of each other. I'm only going to be selecting one of them, and I'm going to add a gradient to it. Now if you guys don't know where the gradient is, it's over here on the panel. I'm going to click that gradient, and you'll notice nothing pops up because I haven't told it specifically what kind of gradient that I want. And I think for this effect, what's going to work the best is linear. So make sure you mouse down to the option that says linear. Now you'll notice I think my options are going to be a little bit different than what pops up on your screen, mainly because I've already done this a couple times. What's probably going to pop up on yours is you're going to have a white color and then a dark black color. And that's going to give you a white to black gradient moving across. For this effect, we don't really want white to black. So what you can do is click on the white slider bar, and then just lower the opacity down here on this menu to 0. That just basically makes the white see-through. So you'll have something that kind of looks like this. It might be a little confusing. I can move it off to the side. Now, to add this textured effect, all we're simply going to do is go up to the top of the screen where it says Effect. And this is essentially the same as Photoshop's filters that you could put on it, like lens flares and stuff like that. So click at the top of your screen where it says Effect, and you'll get this big, huge drop-down menu. And I want you to mouse down all the way to where you see Texture. Okay? Now, once you see Texture, a submenu will pop out. And really, you can access this menu in any different way, but to make sure that you access it quickly and efficiently, go ahead and select the second option that says Grain. Now what will happen is a little submenu will pop out. And what this is showing you is in the middle what the preview of this new texture is going to look like. But also here in the middle, it kind of gives you an idea of other different textures that you can add. And you can play around with this, but I think to get the effect that we're looking for, grain is going to be the option here that we want highlighted. Now, of course, you have some slider bars and some other options here. From this drop-down menu, you can have some other things that you select. I like to keep grain highlighted there. And you can always drag the slider bar to make the intensity of those dots. I'll zoom out a little bit so you can see. To make the intensities of those dots pop out a little bit more. And the contrast the same. But what I've also found works the best is making sure that you have stippled as the grain type. You can fool around with this once you kind of feel a little bit more comfortable with it. I think stippled works best for this effect. However, you know, as you guys kind of become experts, you can kind of fool around with these features. But I like to use stipple here. Okay? And then I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And you'll notice that gives me this black kind of dotted pattern on there. Now, this looks okay, but obviously black and red contrast really, really well together, and that makes my icon look really, really bad. So, or harsh on the eyes. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to lower the opacity to this effect by moving my mouse button over here to the transparency panel, which is basically 2 circles. Go ahead and click that, and you'll notice that this kind of looks like a layers panel inside of Photoshop. You can select which way you want this to work. I just usually leave it on normal because, as you can see, there's not the vast majority of different layer types here that Photoshop has, because Illustrator is a different program than Photoshop. But what I am going to do is I'm going to lower the opacity down somewhere around 50%. And as you can see, that changes basically the opacity of this effect here. If I zoom out, you can see that that texture is there, okay? But it's a little bit more see-through to the color that's underneath it. Now we can do the same exact thing with the stick. Highlight the stick, Command C to make a copy, Command F to put that copy right on place or right on top of it. Now that we've got that copy right on top of it, I'll move it over so that you can see. I'm going to go over here to the gradient menu. I'm going to tell it that I want it to be a linear gradient. And as you can see, it kind of remembered some of the options that I already had there. So my see-through white is at 0% see-through. My black is there. And I'd like to try something. Instead of using black, let's try like maybe a dark brown and see what this looks like. So instead of it being, whoa, my screen's moving all by itself here. Instead of it being clear to black, now it's a clear to a dark brown. Let's just run those steps through again, right? So now that I've got everything gradient, go up to the top where it says Effect. And actually, I can just simply apply the grain again, but I'm going to walk through these steps again. Locate the Texture option. Mouse over to where it says Grain. You'll get another little submenu that pops open. This little sample is going to be a little bit smaller, so I'll make the thumbnail a little bit bigger. All my other options here are saved, grain type, it's at stipple. I can dial up the intensity if I want. I can lower the intensity of those dots. As soon as I feel like I've got something that looks pretty good, I can say OK. And when I zoom out, there's my effect. Now all I really have to do is come in and lower the opacity a little bit. I think 50 is what I left it at the last time. And you'll notice you've got this cool looking little icon with some texture to it. Now, of course, there's lots of different functions that you can run into here. You can change the direction that this effect is running in by basically changing the direction of your gradient. And these are all things that once I come back, I can kind of show you guys how to master. But go ahead and play around with adding effects, or I'm sorry, adding texture effects to your artwork. And as you can see, this actually is just one layer on top of another. But layers are a little bit different in Illustrator than they are in Photoshop. This is actually working on top of the artwork itself. So I'll put that right back over top. Okay, hope you guys found this video tutorial informative. I hope you guys can experiment with this in class, and I look forward to seeing what you guys can come up with. All right, talk to you guys later.